That's the best way to begin, folks. That's exactly what you're going to expect over the course of this episode. You've read the title and you might be wondering, what on earth are these folks going to talk about? This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Inside Line F1 Podcast Parody Awards. And let's just clear out who the jurors are. On this committee of people who's going to decide the winners and the unexpected winners, by the way. We shall explain more on that in a second. Firstly, it's myself, Somal Arora. You've heard me throughout the year. I'm also now commentating on the Indian Racing League. So that's me. I've got F1 Stats Guru Sundaram right by me. I can see it. I can touch him, literally. Even though he lives 30 minutes away from where I actually live. And at last, Kunal Shah, the former marketing head of the Force India F1 team. An FIA accredited Formula 1 journalist, not just a collection of pixels. He's real, he's human. I can finally see you, Kunal.
Yes, it's me in my avatar and not the NFT avatar that we see, or all the Zoom calls and the Zencaster and Riverside collections that we've done. It's so good to be doing this in studio. It's our regular post-season episode, our best ever that we do. It's our most followed, most anticipated, most funny. Of course, I'm just bragging now, but so good to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And quite clearly, folks, the tagline of this one is the winner is never, ever who you think it is. So, Sundaram, we're just going to get some wild nominations and even wilder answers. Not answers, but winners, right? But we actually invited everyone. We could tell that nobody wanted to join. We sent an invite to every single person in the Formula 1 paddock, but it seems like nobody wants to come to Mumbai in this time of the year. Not even we want to be here.
Oh, that's their loss if they've not made it into the studio. But I think this is going to be a super episode. I've been listening to this episode for years, and it feels great to be a part of this finally. And we're recapping the whole season in a way, and there have been some very interesting moments throughout the whole season, and I think we're going to be talking about that through the rest of this episode. It's going to be super fun.
It is, and since you said you've been hearing this through the years, I actually just remembered this is our 10th Parody Awards edition.
Oh.
I'm surprised we don't have a sponsor already. We need to hire Zach Brown to do his magic, but but it's our 10th edition because we started the podcast in 2011 and then we started doing all the parody stuff from 2012. And we've had the awards ever since. And now it's been such a fantastic year. I mean, I want to start off by thanking all our listeners, our viewers, our social media followers, everybody on Twitter, Instagram, because, Spotify Wrapped, which is, of course, at this time of the year, the most hashtagged, social posts that we see. We've had some great numbers, and Spotify has said that we are top 5% of the most followed podcasts in the world.
Wow.
And top 5% of the most shared podcasts in the world. So thank you, dear listeners. You've done all the listening and you've done all the sharing. Then we've sort of been tracking for us. And the interesting part for everybody who loves numbers, and Spotify is only our third best source of listen. So when you look at the global overall all podcast scenario, we actually are top 1.5%. I don't even know if Ferrari performed top 1.5% in the second half of the season when it came to the F1, F1 performance-based level.
What do you mean? Were Ferrari even competing? I didn't see them.
Come on.
Did you?
I knew you were going to say that.
But there's going to be more of banter like this on the episode, but also coming back to the whole point about how much you've listened, folks. We've done 70 episodes this year and almost had 600,000 listens. Folks, you're taking out so much time to listen to us. It feels so amazingly grateful that you're getting heard. And folks, thank you for taking out the time. So seriously, it's a feeling unlike anything else. But there's going to be more listening coming up for you to do as well. Because in the off-season, Sundaram, we've got so many fun episodes to come. The season never really ends for us because after the Parody Awards, after we're all drunk at the end of this and we've all had the after party, there's going to be some really fun guests on the podcast coming up.
Oh, we're just getting started, to be very honest. There's a lot of stuff that we're planning for the off-season. So before the first race next year, before Bahrain, there's going to be a lot of stuff. I don't want to give away a lot of the topics that we're going to be talking about. But yes, people should definitely stay tuned in for this.
Okay, I'm a little generous because I've had more coffee than you have. I'm going to give away one guest that is going to be next on the podcast and our social media channels after the Parody Awards. So we all know Lucky, the documentary series that Bernie Eccleston is narrating all his stories and memories of Formula One. And, while you may not like his off-track or off Formula One personality, let's remember he has the best stories. He has the best, it's like the ringside seat. He's been the ringmaster of Formula One all these years. So Manish Pandey, who's been producing Lucky along with Bernie Eccleston, is going to be a guest on the show. We're going to be interviewing him later on in the week. So expect that episode to follow in the coming week. And I think Lucky releases across all the world on the 27th of December. And to me, as a Formula One fan, yes, Drive to Survive is bringing in the masses. But I expect a series like Lucky to sort of pull you down more in the depth and the history and the storytelling of Formula One, like I said, from the ringmaster himself.
And it's the same Manish Pandey who also directed Senna, who also directed Heroes, who also directed Grand Prix Driver, among other films as well. He's the best Formula One movie director out there, quite clearly. I mean, we should just put him instead of Michael Massey or someone like that. Like, just be the race director as well.
Shots
Do a
fired.
better job. There is going to be more on that. But let's actually start off with the award categories, because Manish is going to come, I think, next week. So we can't wait to see how that episode pans out as well. But here's the moment you've all been waiting for, folks. The categories. What are we going to get to? So, firstly, let's make this clear. It's only the three of us. We're only the jury. We're only the committee. Nobody has decided to join us. I feel very sad. But we also didn't send them tickets or free food or free drinks. So I think that's kind of fair. But the first category...
The budget cap is the reason why they couldn't travel.
Oh, good
That's
point.
the point.
Good point.
And we couldn't get a sponsor for our catering. So that was also...
And we also didn't make an award, right? It's been, I think we should make an award now. It's been 10 years, right?
That's the pixelated award that people can
An
get.
NFT?
It's an NFT, yes.
Well,
Given the amount of airtime we've given to NFT, we need to tell our studio that handles us to get us an NFT sponsor.
we should actually.
Yeah.
But that'll happen eventually. The first thing I want to talk about, though, folks, is the first category. It's called Battle of the Year, and there are so many fun nominees. Firstly, of course, in a straight-face way, there is Leclerc versus Verstappen and the DRS battles that happened, this year? It happened this year, Sundaram?
Yes, in Bahrain and in Saudi Arabia, and it was a treat to watch, seeing Verstappen and Leclerc, battling before the DRS start line, and I think it was very smart usage of that whole rule. But yeah, that was this year.
There is that. There's also this amazing battle of Max versus the DRS during the Spanish GP, and it just would not just open, Kunal. That is one.
We are hyping up the DRS, and there's this Ross Brawn walking out saying, hey, we are going to have the reverse DRS because, hey, why
Let's
not?
not talk about that,
Yeah.
please.
I mean, banter. Yeah. So we've had Max and the DRS issues and him going bonkers and crazy as well. And I just remembered one more nomination for the Battle of the Year. Alpine versus McLaren. Not just on track, but even in the courtroom. Ooh. Alpine going to the Court of Appeal and, the Contract Recognition Board, trying to fight for PS3 services without actually having a contract with him. So maybe that should also be a Strategy of the Year nomination. Oh. I'm giving some of the pearls away in the early part.
Oh, yeah. There was this big one that eventually spilled out in one case to Alpine's favour, the other case to McLaren's favour. So the scores are still settled in even between them. But there was also Pierre Gasly's battles with braking because the poor guy just could not get the car to brake properly for... How many races did we have this year? 21? He got so frustrated that he said, screw it, I'm leaving.
Are you sure we have 21 or do we have 22? There we go.
22.
I actually never remember the total number because the FIA announces a total number. Hey, we can't do more than 25 races. So that's one number. Then there is the World Motorsport Council that announces the calendar, which is, 21, 22, 23. And nobody up front is able to go and tell the Chinese saying you won't have a race because, hey, if we tell you you won't have a race, then we don't get paid for it or whatever. And then suddenly a few months later, the Chinese actually say, zero COVID, sorry, we won't have a race. So suddenly I don't know how many numbers to deduct, but yeah, some 20 or 22 odd plus races.
That's a fun battle. The FIA versus all the people working in the sport because they just want to cram so many races in. And all the people working in the sport are like, give us a break, please. And that never happens. What if we're just going to have a season-long season? So we have two different crews working in 6-month shifts. But that's for later on. We should go to the winner. So who's winning this category, Kunal?
So the winner of the Battle of the Year award is Mercedes versus porpoising.
Oh,
Okay, like we said at the start, Somil was very clear. The winner is never who you think it is. So each time you wonder, this is absolutely dead right the winner. I promise you it's not going to be the winner because these awards are fixed. We're not going to agree or deny if we paid for it, right? We paid for it in love and all the good reviews and comments you'll write for us. But yeah, the winner of the award is Mercedes versus porpoising because, through the season, one thing became very apparent that Formula One drivers, their favorite genre of music was rock music with all the headbanging they did at the start of the season and, and so on. And I loved how Mercedes as a team used their might in the sport, used their drivers and, George Russell as GPDA and just kept saying, oh, so how are you doing today? Porpoising. Do you want to eat something? Porpoising. What did you do yesterday? Porpoising. And then, the whole Baku incident that happened with Lewis Hamilton and so on. So it was, they won the battle against porpoising because they believed that porpoising was holding them back, only to realize that after having fixed porpoising, it was genuinely the package that was holding them back. So the battle of the year was Mercedes versus porpoising. They won the battle but sort of lost the war.
So, in a way, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell became living, breathing bobbleheads, Sundaram.
Yes, they did.
Like all the time, they must be sitting like, boom, 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 boom. But there were more unexpected battles too. Who would have expected something like Jacques Villeneuve versus Lance Stroll? I mean, we know that Jacques Villeneuve can attack. Would he attack a fellow Canadian? That's not very Canadian of him, is it?
Oh, would he attack a Lance Stroll? I mean, Lance Stroll, a world champion, Lance Stroll. But that's the thing, Lance Stroll is being attacked by world champions these days, off late, and so on. And then also, F1 drivers, I'm going to add another nomination to these unexpected battles, would have never imagined that they would be fighting off the money-filled sheikhs of Saudi Arabia. And you guys know exactly where I am going with this, right? But that was also one of the nominations that we actually came up with.
So who's winning this one? Who's the unexpected winner of the winner of the unexpected battle of the year? Actually, it's so unexpected. We didn't even decide this category before we prepped for this episode. It's that unexpected. So the winner, folks, is Formula One fighting against Sky. Formula One just does not like Sky at all because there's Ralf Schumacher versus Gunther Steiner. They had this major fallout, Kunal. We saw Gunther Steiner banning Sky Germany in 2022, and then Max Verstappen banned Sky Sports for Mexico as well. So what is it? Are we going to have Sky Sports broadcasting? Because you work for a company that also broadcasts Formula One. So in a way, you're somewhat winning this battle. No? Your biggest rival is getting...
I mean, I'll put it this way. I mean, the unexpected battle in this, when Max boycotted Sky Sports, it suddenly became, oh my God, like he's boycotted Sky Sports, the British media house. But Gunther Steiner, not speaking to Sky Germany, almost went unnoticed. It happened for so many races of the season. But hey, it was Ralf Schumacher coming to Mick Schumacher's, rescue. And we sort of know what happened. We shouldn't use this to become a Schumacher Awards episode or whatever, talking about it. But yeah, to me, media houses, Formula One teams go hand in hand, and sometimes you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's typical. But yes, the winner of the unexpected battle of the year definitely is Sky Sports and Formula One teams. Although I don't know who really won that battle because despite all the bans, everybody went back to speaking on the media houses.
Yeah. How futile, how pointless at the end of the day. Sky Sports has this amazing tactic in the world of football that even when we have a civil discussion, they will put the title heated in the YouTube one. So maybe that's what they tend to do, right? Just make things more heated for the sake of it. And the teams are like, screw you, we're not going to talk to you anymore. But we should not talk more about Sky. We should not give them too much airtime because they didn't pay for this particular episode, by the way. So we should go to the strategy of the year. And so many nominations, Sundaram. There were so many fun little strategies, but so many unexpected ones as well from that.
Oh yeah, there are definitely a lot of unexpected ones. I'll take the first one. The first one is Alpha Tauri using duct tape to fix the rear wing of Yuki Tsunoda's car in Baku. And like they say, duct tape fixes everything. And we've all seen that photo of the guy with a leaking jar of water and he slaps a strip of duct tape onto it and that ends all your problems. So that was the first nomination of this category.
I would say the second one for me was definitely Red Bull Racing's strategy with Checo Perez. At the start of the season, of course, they had all their DNFs, and suddenly they realized, oh my God, the battle is not with Leclerc and Ferrari. The battle is with Checo and Max. And then they gave him all the hope and all the media statements saying, equal rights, equal status in the team. You can go fight for the World Drivers' Championship, only to finally have the team orders that we had in Spain very early on in the season, and then only to make sure that all the upgrades were first being delivered to Max Verstappen. So Checo Perez was told he would fight equally with Max Verstappen in a car that was totally different, that was overweight, and that was doing a lot of testing and so on.
Yeah. And there's also other fun strategies as well, mainly employed by so many drivers. The hit and run strategy. That seems to work very well for celebrities around here, right? Because we saw George Russell just completely hit and run and completely run away from Mick Schumacher in Singapore. But it worked, Sundaram, in Mexico when Daniel Ricciardo did it and actually got some points for how many, only the third or fourth time this year?
Yes.
Hit and run works.
Yeah, and he did that with Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, he pushed him off track, and I think he DNF'd. He DNF'd in that race and then went on. Yuki did. And then he went on to do a couple of daredevil overtakes that he usually does. We saw classic Ricardo that time, and he was in the points for I think third or fourth time.
He hit and ran away so far that he's not an F1 anymore. No?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. No, I'm still a Daniel Ricciardo fan. But what else? What other major strategies did we have?
Oh, probably even Nick DeVries, being the merchandise collector of the year. He's driven for 5 different teams. There's Mercedes, Aston Martin. He did the Alpine test, the private Alpine test. And, do we have more nominations for this question?
We do. So I'm going to finish the DeVries thing because he drove for 5 teams, but he collected 6 overalls.
Wait a minute. How?
Because he also had McLaren when he was trying to stand in for Lando Norris in the last race or whatever, last couple of races of the season. And he actually had the overalls, he had a seat fit, but he didn't drive, right? And since you mentioned Alpine, I'm going to put Alpine out here with their whole strategy to keep Fernando Alonso, but also keep Oscar Piastri in the team, and then eventually keeping neither. But I guess.
That's a move liked by Pierre Gasly. But you were guessing something?
Yeah, and I'm sure strategy of the year has to have a mention of Ferrari.
Are you questioning me? Question?
Yeah, exactly. Spa. That's what happened, right? With the whole, hey, Carlos, is that your name question, the whole radio message. So they wanted to, have driver inputs on strategy, and they were like, we got to be seriously asking the drivers the questions, because especially if it's Carlos, because he normally engineers his own races from the car as well.
But Ferrari's strategy, my word, who decides on such a radical solution like that? But this year, Charles Leclerc has so many poles that he could take each pole, bonk every member of the Ferrari strategy team on the head just to knock some sense into them. Because what have they been doing? He's driving a 320 kp at Sundaram, and they're asking him like a 15-paragraph long question on what does he want to do. He's only a driver.
That's something which only Ferrari could do, I have a feeling. Sadly enough, that's very ingenious of them. But let's get into who the winner of this category is. And the winner is Haas and Nikita Mazepin. So basically what they did is they took all his sponsorship money, I think it was to the tune of $12 million, and then casually just released him from the team. Used all that money for development, and the driver is not even there. And I think it even went to this extent where the whole Mazepin camp, they passed, I think there was a lawsuit of sorts, and Haas responds saying, no, there is actually a term in the contract that if this affects our image, we can get rid of the driver. And they demanded $8 million more from Haas if Nikita Mazepin wants the 2021 car as a gift, I suppose. But I think that was the strategy of the year, and maybe Alpine could learn a thing or two from Haas in reading about the contracts a bit more.
I would say this was also financial masterstroke of the year by Haas.
Yeah.
Employed 2 rookies, and they literally kicked both of them out in span of 12 months and then 24 months.
Not bad.
Yeah, I wonder if they actually didn't really have a strategy to exploit the Schumacher name in their car. I guess that's what happened. And I don't know if it was this whole rumor about Steiner wants to be the most recognizable brand in the team, but that's happened. And that's happened with, Mick's dad in Ferrari, when in 2006 the Schumacher brand became sort of bigger and more known than the Ferrari brand, and it's just come back to bite Mick just at the start of his career.
Well, it's good that Haas is now becoming a team of comebacks right now. It's like a return ticket, right? Everyone who's gone on a Formula One ticket, does anyone want to weigh back in? But there are other fun races to talk about. That's the fun category we should go to next, the race of the year. And there's so many straight-faced nominees in this one. You've got the British GP where, Carlos Sainz won. By the way, he's a race winner, guys. The Hungarian... What about... Did you remember the Carlos Sainz win, Sundaram?
No, the highlight of that race for me was the last 6 laps. We had 5 different drivers fighting for P2. There was Hamilton, there was Perez, there was Leclerc, there was Alonso and Lando Norris. So either one of them could have been second. And I think that's what people are always going to be talking about.
The double overtake of Lewis Hamilton. That was also in the last few laps.
I watched that yesterday, to be very honest. I watched it yesterday and I watched it thrice. And that always gave me goosebumps.
Just
great.
what Formula One should be.
Yes.
Exactly. And then it was all ruined for Max Verstappen by one of his teammates' underflow pass. It's so ridiculous what happened. That was a good race. Hungarian GP was an entertaining race because we saw Ferrari make, I think, their most colossal mistake strategy-wise of the year by putting them on hards.
And Verstappen was just showing off by, he's like, let me do a spin and then I'll go on and win this as well.
Celebratory donuts mid-race. Let's call it.
Mid-season as well.
Mid-season as well.
Mid-season as well.
And without the FIA actually saying you can do a donut here, but...
You read my mind.
It wasn't sanctioned. But yeah, he went and did it anyway.
What a lad. What a man Max Verstappen is. Then there's the Sao Paulo GP where the hit-and-run strategy almost worked for Lewis Hamilton. So are we putting the blame on him now? No, the FIA said it wasn't. The FIA said it wasn't him, so I think we're going to consider on with the FIA. We should talk about them later on as well because we have a different category for the FIA later. But the Sao Paulo GP was one where we saw George Russell become a race winner. But I think one of the best races that we saw this year was Mattia Binotto being chased by the Ferrari management all year round. Like just pushing them, like just kicking him in the back, like get out now. And all of a sudden, can we now claim that corporate communication is utter bullshit? Because 10 days before he resigned, Ferrari sent a message canal that, this is all rumors. So basically, corporate communication is just rubbish. Never read it before, right? It never tells you the full story.
I get a feeling it was Mattia Binotto who took his phone, logged onto Twitter for the first time ever, using the Ferrari admin rights and just put out that message saying, I'm going to make this even more fun for the world than it actually is. But no, you're right. I mean, it is Ferrari things, right? Usually when a rumor comes out, there's this whole thing of where there's a smoke, there's a fire. We had the rumor come out for Daniel Ricciardo. He put out a statement. He was still kicked out, right? And then similarly with Ferrari and Mattia Binotto as well. But I think that's a race that they will regret having won in the time to come. Because what they did before is they made their best engineer the team principal. And now they have not just kicked out the best engineer, but they've also kicked out a team principal. So technically... They wanted him in the best engineering role that he should have been because they clearly, he's brought the car up to what it is today. And now I realize that this is supposed to be banter and parody and this is not meant for this. The platform is not meant for that. I can already see the virtual guests going away to the bar saying, oh my God, this is the boring part of the conversation. Let me go get a couple of drinks.
We should actually sign up a tissue paper sponsor just to clear all the tears and the wipes. So maybe they can have a direct...
This is Sommel Brown at work.
Oh, well, but let's actually get to the winner of the race of the year. And the winner is Saudi Arabia for hosting Formula One 2 times in 6 months, regardless of a missile strike. And they wanted 2 races in a calendar year. How? It's like, it's an outrageous demand. They literally had a missile strike behind and they were like, yeah, it's fun. There's this Hindi tagline which is, Aaj kuch tufani karte hain, which means let's just do something thunderous today. And that's what they did.
No, it's actually for our listeners to understand why we've given Saudi the race of the year, because the race went ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Friday evening, the missile strike was barely 10 kilometers away, and yet the ministry or even the organizers telling that it's impractical that we don't go ahead with the race. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, what you mean is that the race, just by virtue of it going ahead, should be given the race of the year
exactly.
award, right? It should have just been cancelled.
Yeah.
But money talks, and he just made a statement. He being the Saudi chief, that the Middle Eastern nations should host more Formula E races as well. So basically, they just want to keep hosting all these races, and it's just scary.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? They're having this fun little city called Neom. It's a line. It's like a 200-kilometer line, and it's going to be vertically as tall as the One Trade Center in New York, and they're going to make something like that. And they're sponsoring so many Formula E teams. They sponsored Mercedes, they're sponsoring McLaren, and all this while just waiting and wondering, well, what's the whole point of the sports washing when the negative press already is getting to it? It's just getting too serious. Let's move on to
Sawmill and corporate communications.
Yeah, I just be honest. But again, I'm too young to maybe realize that I haven't.
But
worked
on this podcast, we will never let Formula One ever forget that there was a missile strike.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
It'll be wiped
Yes.
out from our memories. They'll work really hard, but our communications overdrive will keep reminding you and Formula One there was a missile strike and we still had the race, and that's precisely why Sundaram here has chosen to give it the Race of the Year award.
Formula One drivers are just pawns at the end of the day, right? But essentially, for a country's driver, yeah, whatever. Too much on the Middle Eastern nations, especially with the World Cup going on right now. But Sundaram, the next category that we've got is the driver of the year, and the nominations this year are interesting, to say the least.
Oh, of course, Max Verstappen is definitely up there. 15 race wins in one season, taking a different record. I mean, he's claiming the record altogether. And then we also have George Russell, who's been super consistent. Lots of top 5 finishes throughout the year. And he also outscored Lewis Hamilton in his first year with the team. I don't think a lot of Hamilton fans are going to be happy with that. But I think we have one more nomination here.
It should be Charles Leclerc for his pole run. I mean, to have that record pole, how many poles he had?
I think 9.
9 poles. There you
9
go.
poles.
That's the stat
9
man talking.
poles. Wow.
9 poles that he had. So many of them were not converted into wins. Let's not get into the stat.
Just 3.
There you go. Okay. We got into the stat with Mr.
No, sorry, just 2.
Okay. So there we go. But I think Charles Leclerc, I would definitely give it to him. I mean, even this sheer emotion of sitting in the car every Sunday, imagine motivating himself saying, oh my God, what could my team mess up today? No, I'm serious. I mean, he's put it on pole, and even in a place like Monaco, starting from pole and still losing out. Was he on pole in Monaco?
He was.
He was.
He
on
was.
pole.
There
was
you
on
go.
pole. But it must be very dreadful being Charles Leclerc on pole ahead of a Sunday race. He must be really dreading what could possibly go wrong today.
But I must say, the battle of the year actually is also Leclerc versus Binotto, because all these movements that have happened in Ferrari, everybody's been saying there is probably a Nicola Stott at work as well. But anyway.
Oh, so who's the winner, Sundaram? Who are we giving it to?
And the winner is Oscar Piastri over the whole McLaren Alpine saga. Now you're probably starting to understand why we've given it to Oscar Piastri, but the thing is, he did not drive this year at all, and that's the point. We had a person who's yet to make his F1 debut, and then you have teams like McLaren and Alpine, 2 former world championship winning teams, fighting over his services over a few irregularities in the contract. But I think it must be very difficult for Oscar Piastri as well, because being put into this situation before his debut, before his first race in Formula One, it's probably the best way to get into Formula One. You have teams fighting all over you, kind of ups his stakes as well.
And I like what you said. Teams fighting all over you without you having driven a Formula One car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had a race of the year that shouldn't have happened, and we had a driver of the year who's actually never driven. I think I know where this is going, because I see that I have to now speak of the partnership of the year category, right? And the nominees that we've put down are obviously Checo Perez and Max Verstappen. Yeah. Clear number 2 while letting him believe he has a shot at the title. Congratulations, Checo. We love you. But
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad or whatever it is. That's what Sebastian Vettel said. What a team. Oh, but then of course we've also got other nominees. There's Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin for not criticizing the Strolls. Because as soon as he signed the Aston Martin contract, Fernando Alonso's been happy. He's spitting out flowers instead of curses from his mouth whenever he's talking about Lance Stroll. The FIA literally went on air to say, no, Lance Stroll was at fault at the USGP incident, but Fernando wouldn't say that. So that's a great partnership, right? Even before they worked together, they're already agreeing on not to speak ill of each other. That's one.
corporate communications at work, since corporate comm is what you were talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
So-
But how long can you silence Fernando for? But that's one question. But also Formula One in America, that's a good partnership, Sundaram.
Oh yes, we're going to be having an American driver next year. We're going to be having 3 races in one season. F1's love for America is becoming more and more visible, and yeah, I think that's turning out to be one of the partnerships of the year. But
sorry, go on.
you're saying?
And America's love for our podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh yes,
we are clearly one of the top performing podcasts in America because we see that in our analytics. Anyone wanting to dig through the data with us, just write into us. And I love this whole thing. There is an American team, but there is another American team that wants to come, which is Andretti. And then how everybody said, they welcome, put in $1 billion. And now suddenly like, no, we're a closed franchise of 10 clubs or closed club of 10 franchises or whatever. So F1's love for America, I love the whole partnership. I mean, in order to try and woo the American audience, so many other ancillary audiences have come in as well. And I have a nomination. Since I just remembered, it should be Mercedes and the brakes on their car. More specifically,
yes.
Lewis Hamilton. Because all through the season, he kept saying, there's an issue with the brakes, almost never explaining what the issue was. But closer to the end of the season, he just gave it away, saying, you know what? The right side of my brakes are coming up to temperature much before the left side. We've had this problem all season. I don't really know what to do. Let's hope we fix it for next season.
What else can he say?
The other thing he can say is what Mr. Lollipop Man Comics has done. He's gone and picked up the car and put it in the bin. And the reason why I'm mentioning this, that on the Inside Line F1 podcast, we actually had some fantastic, groundbreaking, global audience winning partnerships, right? So the first one, we have had Mr. F1 Stats Guru, who's on the mic here on my right. There is Lollipop Man Comics. We've just sort of forged a relationship with him. And you will see lots of interesting content that we will put out in the animated version in the off season. Then we had our own race watch-along sessions. They were hosted by award-winning journalists like Peter Windsor and Steve Slater, and we had some fantastic guests on the podcast. Samuel, you've hosted Bob Varsha and Ben Edwards as well. So I'm putting these as nominees, but let's not give ourselves the award. So I am actually going to give the award for the Partnership of the Year award.
Wait, so who's it going to be?
It's going to be Porsche and Red Bull Racing.
Wait, let me guess. Is it because they were a partnership that never happened?
Yeah, in the similar realm of a driver that never drove a race that shouldn't have happened, and here's a partnership. But can you imagine Porsche never saw this coming? Can you imagine Red Bull almost always knew this could have happened, right? And a team like Porsche sitting with the brand, the lineage, the money, the know-how, and almost nobody is signing them on, or at least making news about them. And, if at all, it's like if Porsche wants to enter, they can sign up with Williams. So they've gone from signing from the best team on the grid to hoping that they get the worst team on the grid, at least based on 2022 results, right? And so on. So I just feel I would love to see. I think Porsche is already going to win the Partnership of the Year next year because I'm really eager to see who they eventually sign up with and how Formula One, as Liberty Media, sort of does all the scheming behind the scenes to get Porsche in, because they've aggressively lobbied with the Volkswagen board to get Audi and Porsche in as well. But again, I realized that this is not banter, so this is not meant for this. This is not the platform.
Oh, well, but we've also got other fun categories. Now, at this stage, I'm going to come up with the most weird one. This is going to be the prediction of the entire year. Oh, well, let's go for the nominations. Who have we got, Sundaram?
Oh, I think this goes straight up there. Mattia Binotto, I think just before the Hungarian Grand Prix, going up and saying that there's no reason why Ferrari cannot win the next 10 races. I think at that point of time, I think Leclerc was 60 points behind Verstappen, Ferrari were 80 points behind Red Bull. And it probably wasn't the best way or the best time to really say that, because interestingly, they didn't win even a single race. I get what Binotto was trying to do, probably trying to instill a little bit of confidence, saying that, yeah, we know what we're doing and we will win both championships, but Ferrari didn't win a single race after that.
And I can tell you what must have happened after that. And I'm being very brutal because that's what this podcast is about. All of us did the mental maths, including Leclerc.
Yes.
And guess what the Ferrari strategists did? They picked out the calculator and they did it manually, saying how many points will we gain every race, and hence what could be the total at the end of the 10th race that our boss himself has said we will win, because it's easy math to do, right?
No, but the thing is that maybe Binotto had that little optimism inside him, because this is something which Ferrari has done before as well. They've won 10 races on the trot back in 2002, and that isn't actually the record. I think McLaren did 11 back in 1988.
88, yeah.
So he's like, yeah, we've done it once, we can definitely do it again.
But they had Schumacher, they had Todt, and they had Braun. Ferrari doesn't have that anymore. And I would have loved that rumor of Ross Braun joining Ferrari and all of that happened. But eventually Ross has said, I'm going to sit on the sofa and watch Formula One as a fan.
But I love the fact that Binotto said, I don't see a reason why. Could you not see 1,000 different things? Like not getting the tires arranged properly, to making the wrong strategic calls, to the engine blowing up, to the car not being fast, to the new technical directive, to the heat affecting the tires.
Oh, God.
Did he have something on his eye when he was doing it? Like, could not see something? Oh, well, we should go to other nominees, right? We've spoken too much on Ferrari. We've actually...
I have a nominee, former Ferrari driver, Fernando Alonso. Him signing up with Aston Martin, again with so much optimism. And, in general, he was always optimistic. He could predict his race outcomes, even if he was on the wrong tire, even if the team was asking him, do you want a medium, do you want a soft? Doesn't matter, just put whatever, the car's quick today. So prediction of the year, the predictor of the year, Fernando Alonso would be one of my nominations. And then I believe you, Sundaram, had made a mid-season prediction.
Yeah, you should just give it to me. Just give it to me straight away. Yeah, I did make a prediction in our mid-season review that George Russell, that is a pretty bold prediction I said at the time, that George Russell is going to win a race before Lewis Hamilton. I don't think people really liked that comment of mine, but turns out he did. Lewis Hamilton's not won a race all year. George Russell's taken pole, and he's also won a race in Brazil. So yeah, I get that. I should have actually bet a little bit of money on that, probably. My loss.
You literally predicted, but did you predict the Undertaker-like streak ending for Lewis Hamilton? Because it's the first time ever he's got nothing.
Yes,
Nothing to
that's
show
the
for.
first time. And that, sadly, I like seeing patterns continue, but sadly, this was a year where we saw no Hamilton pole, no Hamilton win. And he's not won. And no one's still won a race after the 300th Grand Prix, and maybe next year's a chance for him to do that. But who's winning this, Somil?
It is you. It has to be you. There can't be anything else. This has to be the winner of the prediction of the year, undoubtedly. But with the prediction, we can see that most of them turned out to be lies, apart from Sundaram's one. What about the lie of the year? I think we should get to that very quickly, because there are so many fun nominees, like Leclerc's radio in Bahrain, Kunal.
Oh, yeah. When, after the race, he won so comfortably, he went and he said, guys, there's a problem with the engine. And I think that was a lie, because yes, there was a problem with the engine, but technically there was a problem with the team altogether, right? I'm being, again, brutal, but that's where I'm going. So that to me was one of the lies.
And they say there's a thing like a commentator's curse.
Yeah.
And this time it was a driver's curse, because he was talking about, he was joking about the engine, but he actually jinxed it for himself and the team, because they had a lot of reliability issues. And that engine literally went up in smoke. I think, where was it? Austria. But yes, Somil, who's winning this?
I'm torn apart between two. So, wait, I know my winner. I've just thought about it for a second. I know my winner. So I'll tell you the nominee first, the last one that I have in mind. Red Bull Racing lying by saying they'll let Perez and Verstappen fight for the World Championship. We all thought for a second, right? After Baku, we all thought, or after Monaco precisely, we thought, yes, Perez versus Verstappen. We literally had an episode titled that, could this be the fight of the year? And then, how have the tables turned? Wow, that's one. But what do we think about it?
I think the lie of the year nominee should also have Checo Perez lying about Monaco, whether he actually spun on purpose or not in qualifying, and hence qualified ahead of Max, and then the whole issue that happened in Brazil, and then anybody and everybody who knows how to make telemetry charts in Formula One, and now there are a lot of people, which is great, right? Suddenly we're putting out all these charts saying, guess what, there was a tap on the throttle in mid corner, he didn't do this the previous lap, and whatever. So we still don't know if that was a lie of the race or not.
these are things that you will probably never really know, no matter how much data that you have. So you can probably say Perez probably did lie in Monaco, or you could also say Red Bull probably lied about the budget cap overall, in that it was just catering, but only they would really know if they actually did that. But Somil?
I think there was an artist on Twitter who made a picture of a graphical animation of Red Bull's pit lane at the entire whole thing. And they had a little section where it said, catering, do not enter. They were cooking something and inside they were actually having aerodiagrams and wind tunnels here and there. And that was labeled as the cooking room, the kitchen. So maybe it could be that. But the winner for the lie of the year, Red Bull Racing, for saying that they informed Verstappen only at the final corner in Brazil. You uncovered this, Kunal.
We did, yes, on Viaplay. We actually, we put on our Sherlock Holmes hat and we said, you know what, we are going to dig through this. So we worked with Formula One and, we got the unsynced and the synced footage, because what you see on radio, on television, radio is delayed. So we got the actual radio. And it turns out that the first time Max was actually told to give way to Checo Perez was at turn 7 and not turn 12, 13, 14, wherever, Red Bull claimed they did. So we uncovered their lie, but, at some point, everybody just realized, let's just move on and let just Red Bull do what they're doing, because it was actually adding to a narrative after they had sealed both the titles and, hey, we need to have some controversy for Abu Dhabi because, hey, it's Abu Dhabi, they pay us a lot of money, controversy is good for the sport.
No, it's actually funny that they thought they would get away with this, because in this age when F1 is giving access to all the viewers, you can literally hear the radio messages, you can see the onboards in live time. So obviously everyone knew that this is not the truth. Still, they went ahead and put out a statement that Verstappen was informed only at the last corner. Did they really think we would buy it? Nah, I think none of us really bought it.
What's that? Oh, yeah, it's an ostrich. It's like literally an ostrich taking their head and just dumping it in the soil like nothing happened. I don't know. Nothing happened. I'm not here. It's just something like that by Red Bull. Well, what a joke. What a lie. But there are other fun categories. It revealed that Red Bull Racing are not always the most honest, which we know by Christian Horner's media statements as well. But that brings us on to the revelation of the year, Kunal. And I already have a couple of really weird nominees. Max Verstappen revealed that he's a virgin. But he's already screwed Ferrari's championship altogether, single-handedly. How can he be?
That is information I did not need to know, but yeah, thank you.
It just pops up, right? It just pops up randomly.
That's crazy. And the other nomination that we have is the fact that the FIA rule book, it's revealed that the rules have a different interpretation than actually what's written in it. I mean, for example, take Monaco, for example. We had Verstappen and I think maybe even Perez going over the pit entry line. And it turns out that's not actually what it means. You have to go completely beyond it and not just on it. And I think Yuki Tsunoda was extremely upset with that, because last year he was, I think, handed a reprimand or something of that sort for going over the line at one of the races. I think it was Austria or France, but it's crazy. It's written in a certain way and it's interpreted a different way.
Brazil as well, right? Yuki Tsunoda getting lapped and all that.
Oh, yes.
Because FIA forgetting that Yuki was in the race.
Exactly.
Literally. That's the literal interpretation of that. But I like where this is going. The FIA rule book kept revealing itself as the season progressed. We had Japan where only the FIA knew what was happening, that it's going to be full points, and then the tractor coming on track, and again the FIA revealing that there was some ways that they followed which they should have. Anyway, that's some very, very messy thing to talk about. But the winner of the Revelation of the Year award is, and actually we have a tie, right? The first one is budget cap related, but it's not really about the budget cap. So I'm going to put it as a mathematical question there, right? Not just to you two, but all the thousands of listeners that are there. When we say a team spends $142 million a year on racing, what percentage does one normally think goes into upgrading a car? Because every race, there's a new car. The car that starts in testing in Bahrain and the first race in Bahrain is very different from the car that lands up in Abu Dhabi. There are race-specific updates for cooling, for grip and for whatever, like Monza spec wing and a Singapore spec wing. And when you add all the complexity and when you think of Formula One being such a complicated, expensive sport, and then you have somebody like a Frederick Vasseur, the chief of Sauber, Alfa Romeo Racing, whatever you call it, like says that $2.5 million, he revealed, right, that $2.5 million is all that it costs a team to upgrade a car through the season. And now when
What are you saying? Seriously?
Yeah, and when you
For real?
I mean, when you work back all the percentages, it is so small of what the teams spend annually. But there's this whole hype around who's bringing what upgrades, like Mercedes' Austin upgrade and Mercedes' Silverstone upgrade last year and so on. And then add to the context. I said last year, Lewis Hamilton said, of course, in the wake of Red Bull's controversy, he revealed that $300,000 is all that he could have spent extra, Mercedes could have spent to win the 2021 title. All right. I mean, I'm sure he's at some point thought, can I just put it's pocket change for me? Like I can just put the money and get an extra wing. But it just reveals that it's an expensive sport. But again, all these small little differences which we hype up in our mind are sort of the main things to focus on. But the joint winner of this has to be Max Verstappen being revealed as the driver's champion in Japan when nobody, including Christian Horner, did not know that he was world champion. And I remember this, right? So there was a world feed, podium ceremony, whatever, and Johnny Herbert said, hey, you won, what do you think? And Max like, no, I've got a point. And we had Christian Horner right next to our Viaplay Netherlands reporter, right? And we said, okay, just go and ask, like, what's the scene? And Christian said, no, by our calculations, 1 point. And all the models that we run real time during broadcast said 1 point. Yeah. But the FIA revealed that he was the champion.
That's crazy because, I mean, we often tend to talk about F1 being the pinnacle of motorsport. So ideally, you would expect that the rule book is foolproof, well-read and understood. And then you have these sort of loopholes that that tend to come up every few races. It's absolutely crazy.
You know what? We should actually penalize the FIA for it. Oh, wait. How can we do that? We'll actually think about that. But let's actually go on that to the penalty of the year. We are going to talk about the nominees. There are going to be many of them. The budget cap penalty, 300,000 for Red Bull Racing. The fiasco, the penalty that Alpine had to pay for letting go of one of their own drivers. It was, how many million was it again?
I think it was close to $1 million. They had to pay for everything.
Legal costs were more than $1 million.
Yeah, it was also the lawyers' fees and taking everybody's time and whatever.
Even McLaren's, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the porpoising technical directive was also kind of like a big penalty to Ferrari in a way that came in from Mercedes. If they could ever do that, as you mentioned, Kunal, the lobbying element, but they just slapped Ferrari and suddenly they disappeared, didn't even come out.
Absolutely, and I would say even a penalty here was, Alpine blowing Fernando Alonso's engine, because after a point, 7 DNFs is what he had. So they realize, if we have to put all the upgrades and whatever, and everybody's calling their engine a bomb these days. So Alpine blowing, Alonso's engine, some sort of way of penalizing Fernando for all his outrageous outbursts on radio.
For being Alonso. For being just Alonso.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Wait, I think that's the line you mentioned, right? Penalizing Fernando for being Alonso.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and having having all those races where, despite not having, as much reliability, he was still so much quicker than Esteban Ocon. And then it would just make Alpine look so bad for having signed Ocon, but having let go of Fernando. But yeah, so Alpine penalizing Fernando for being Alonso. Wow.
But who's the winner, Sundaram?
I actually like what you said there, Somil. So the winner of this category is us. We are going to penalize the FIA for their consistency and their decision making, or the lack thereof. There have been so many instances throughout this year. Pick and choose any one. There's just been so much of inconsistency with applying their own rules, and at times teams have had to go forward and tell them, "Hey, this is what your rule book says." Let's talk about US, for example, the US Grand Prix, for example, where Haas made a protest and Alpine goes and protests Haas's protest and tells him, basically, your rule book is wrong. You should not have even taken or even considered the protest because they lodged the appeal way too late.
Just FIA things, isn't it?
Even though the actual offense was legitimate, the only reason why Alpine got away and Haas did not is because Alpine said that Haas lodged it too late.
And Alpine lost it late as well. Even they lost it late as well. And I think it was when they had a right to review.
Yeah.
That's when it was accepted, and that's when they realized that, hey, this penalties. We can't give this penalty. So basically, what we are doing, we are penalizing the FI. But when are we going to give this judgment?
Yeah, what are we going to do? How are we going to penalize the FI, and for what, Samal?
For being consistently inconsistent?
Yes.
They were consistently inconsistent last year as well.
So we will declare the announce of the result. We will announce the results of the penalty post episode, right? So because that's what the FI usually does, right?
Oh, yeah.
Under investigation will be revealed 4 hours out, 15 hours, or 48 hours after the race. So
you know what? Let's not do it post episode. Let's do it before the first race next season, so we have quite a bit of time.
Yeah, we can make a detailed report on it. A report that says absolutely nothing and does absolutely nothing about it.
and just blames it on human error.
We could do all of that. Oh, wow. It's like they're scared to take responsibility. Not in terms of safety. Not in terms of safety. And they're absolutely proactive. They're the best out there in any sport whatsoever. But in terms of these, in comparison, trivial matters, it's like, I don't know. I didn't do it. I don't know. It's not our fault.
They fall within a framework where doesn't always make sense. But let's make sense of the next category. What have we got, Samuel?
Oh, yes. We've got the best drive. And it's not properly a drive. It's also a drive in a way of a journey. Let me tell you more about it. Because Kevin Magnussen had an amazing drive, or a ride rather, behind a Marshall after he got stuck in the midfield of the Brazil circuit for almost 40 minutes.
He was mobbed.
He was mobbed as well, was he?
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, wow, that was the ride of my life getting back.
Oh, yeah. So that happened. Similarly, Lewis Hamilton got stranded as well in Belgium, didn't he?
There's a lonely walk back to the paddock, yes. In Spa, right?
And a similar one for Sergio Perez in Canada, Kunal?
That is correct. And, to my mind, while we are doing all this, only image that comes across is of Kimi Raikkonen in the desert.
Yeah.
There you go. See, all of y'all knew I was going to say that. And then, at least for, everybody else, he going back and grabbing an ice cream. So that's
Mithila would
usual.
be happy you've mentioned Raikkonen on the episode.
We have.
We're going to keep his legacy alive till Ace Man Robin Raikkonen does something in Formula One, or could be daughter Rihanna as well. You never know.
Yeah. Totally out of context in this one. We also had this one shot in the Indian Racing League that I'm working on right now, where one driver unfortunately got taken out in another person's crash. I shall describe the crash some other day on a different episode because it's one that deserves an episode. It's the craziest one I've ever seen, and the driver's okay. But the other driver literally had a similar scene. He was walking in the wilderness, but you could only see the part above his chest because the grass at the Madras International Circuit has grown so much that you could only see the driver, who's 5'6", by the way, till his chest. That is like weird. You could only see a picture of it apart, but that's not going to be the one who wins this category. I think the winner for the drive of the year has to be Sebastian Vettel. Now, you might be wondering, Sebastian Vettel, drive of the year? Sure, USA was amazing. Abu Dhabi was pretty decent as well, considering what he did in that race. But I am thinking of giving it to him for Australia. Can you guys think why?
So you mean the best ride of the season?
Oh, actually, yeah, it's a ride. It's a scooter journey, so it has to be a ride, right?
Yes, absolutely. Him taking the Marshall scooter after, what did he have? A retirement? I mean, what was that?
I think his car stopped in FP2.
Yeah, his car stopped in FP2, and then he casually just takes a Marshall scooter, waves to everyone on his way back.
This is post-session, so he knew the session was off.
Yeah.
And we had some hilarious memes on social media, delivery boy and all those sort of things going up.
And he drove in reverse of the circuit that's there. I think he went. He didn't drive the circuit direction. He drove in the reverse. At least that's one of the memes. I don't know if I got caught out by a meme there.
Oh my goodness! But I'm thinking, what Marshall let him go past?
He was a fan Marshall. I wouldn't say rogue Marshall. You have to be a Sebastian Vettel.
If you're a fan, you just stick behind him. Except take me there with you. I don't want to leave you alone. Talk to me in that 5 minutes time. Tell me something about your life. Tell me how cool you are, or how much you're going to work for the environment or something like that. It's what a drive.
That would be a very nice moment for that fan Marshall. But yeah, maybe we should go to the next category.
Moment of the year. Now, last year, Kunal, we had this fun little category called the oof moment of the year. No, actually, no. I haven't described it correctly. It was won by Mark Webber for his fantastic oof in Baku. So that's the oof moment of the year. But this year, the ooh sound is going to be different because there are so many different moments throughout the year that made us go ooh, but different variations of it. So let me talk you through the nominations. Firstly, there's Alex Albon's Australia stint where he just lasted one tyre compound for literally 99.95% of the race and changed it in the last lap. What sort of sound did that make you feel like? What variation of ooh did that get out of you?
Oh, wow. That's how it went because Alex Albon, William. So it was more like, oh. Yeah,
So that's one. Sundaram, there was Verstappen's spin to win in Hungary. What sound did that get out of you?
I went like, oh,
Amazing. Okay, there's that. There's Sebastian Vettel's overtakes in the second half of 2022. Japan, that battle with Fernando Alonso. His great race in Kota where he passed Kevin Magnussen. That made me go, ooh, wow.
Why
That's
is
one.
this man retiring? That's what
Yes.
also went in my head.
Yes, exactly. Then there was Charles Leclerc screaming, no, in France. Did it make you go like, like, ooh.
I was just like, it reminded me of Vettel's spins and crashes when he was at Ferrari. And I was like, okay, that's similar. And I loved this one video of somebody who actually landed a Cessna in that same spot and then took off a Cessna just to show how much wide space there was at France and still Leclerc crashed out there, if you know what I mean.
Wait, someone actually did that?
Yeah. I'll link you to it.
Oh my God, wow, that's a lot of space. Then there's also another great moment, the fake marina in Miami, followed by the real marina in France. That made me go like, ooh, that's cheap. That's a different kind of ooh I never thought I'd say. But
When I saw the prices, I'm like, oh, that's expensive for no water.
yeah. Wait, but if you pay that much money, why would you dip your foot? I can't make sense of it. But okay, good optics, whatever. Then there was the Silverstone protest. That's Sundaram.
Oh.
What? Oh, that's the sound that you
That
made.
was the one I went with.
and they knew about that beforehand that it's possibly going to happen as well. And cars went right past those people as well. And then you go like, oh, that is actually so close.
So what sound did he make?
Oh,
Oh, okay, that's different. As he was
He's
getting
very
on the
consistent,
spectrum.
like the FI. He's like high moments, low moments, neutral. Oh.
Wait, I thought Mithila was a Kimi Raikkonen fan. You're supposed to support Fernando.
yes, exactly.
Go more wild,
Shouldn't
man.
you be going Mamma Mia? Although no, that's only him in Italian Ferrari mode. But yeah,
But we had some crazy radio messages as well.
we did. We had. I think mine was Viking comeback. That was when Gunther gets onto the radio. It's always a bit fun, more fun than when Toto Wolff probably gets onto the radio, I would say. And then there was lots of Checo radio messages. There was Perez and Magnussen sneezing on the radio, and I must say you mentioned Vettel, but Vettel fighting Alonso to the line at Suzuka, iconic driver, iconic car brands, all of that, fighting for P7, P8 at the most iconic racing circuit in the world, literally. And I remember, it was, I think, at least from the visuals that I saw, Alonso was ahead. But I think the deployment that Vettel had just pipped him to the line just there. So it was one of those drag races. And I like that because, we all grow up to drag races as well. And there was like an F1 drag race, one going back to Gasly versus Hamilton in Brazil a couple of years ago as well. Toro Rosso, powered by Honda, out dragging a Mercedes car while there. And one of the other moments I had, this was a very warm one, was when the 20 drivers were together in Abu Dhabi for Sebastian Vettel's farewell. So it was like, oh, wow. And then I'm like, oh, but isn't it weird that Ricardo and Latifi and Mick don't get a farewell themselves? Because, the 4 drivers were outgoing.
And that was the first time, and they were all together for a team photo because that did not happen at the preseason tests and
Yes.
neither at the Bahrain Grand Prix. So that was the first time all
Yeah.
20 of them.
You
were
should
there for a
add
single
context.
test.
Why did that not happen at the preseason test?
So preseason testing, Daniel Ricciardo missed it because of COVID, and Sebastian Vettel missed the first 2 races of the season again because of COVID. So that's why they never stood together for the group photo.
I'm going to add a controversy, which of course I'm going to blow myself. I first thought Vettel wasn't racing in Saudi and Bahrain, not in that order, but because of some human rights issue, something he wasn't agreeing with. But you know what? He came and he raced in Abu Dhabi. So that logic really doesn't add up.
Yeah, it doesn't. But that all the drivers coming together, it made me feel like, oh, wow, this can happen. The GPDA is not just a symbolic body. It actually exists. But the one moment that got me saying, ooh, even more was, who paid that bill?
It was Lewis Hamilton.
650,000?
No. Let's not fall for all the fake narrative. Alexander Albon revealed that it was a fixed menu. It was Lewis's plan and Lewis sort of paid for the bill. So somebody was very optimistic in just taking a picture, uploading it, and saying, "Guess what? This is what the drivers ate," and that person, whoever it is, has gotten a lot of publicity without
job.
actually having the drivers.
Good job.
Guys, we've given this a lot of build-up. Please, who's winning this category?
Who's winning this category, Kunal?
This has to be Mr. Nicholas Latifi.
Had to be.
Had to be. He's had several moments of the year, several P20 in the qualifying. He was 21st in a 20 driver
what?
champ.
Did you say that with a straight face?
I am trying just so that I.
Sorry.
Right, so he was 21st in a 20 driver champion. 20.
For a while.
Then eventually he managed to salvage his Latifi name. Right, no driver of the day award, which is why we said that's it. His outgoing season, we're going to give him an award. That too, the most iconic moment of the year award. Someone can decide if he's going ooh or oh. I don't know. However,
Oh, the sound I'd go for this one is ooh, what? This is Japan.
I remember an F1 stats guru saying he actually topped an FP3 session as well.
He did.
Oh, he topped a session
Before
Lewis Hamilton topped a session this year.
There you go. But to me, the Gotifi moment of the year had to be at Suzuka. He chose to do the most iconic thing at the most iconic circuit on the Friday. He took a wrong turn in Japan, despite having done hundreds of laps, maybe thousands of laps on the simulator. I mean, anybody and everybody who has a PS, the F122 game, I know for a fact Suzuka is one of the circuits you will drive on for all the hype and for the genuine hype that it has. But he took a wrong turn, which is okay. That's a Latifi thing to do. And then he blamed the car.
I'm surprised he didn't do that at Paul Ricard because that track has 167 configurations and he didn't do it in Paul Ricard. He did it at Suzuka in probably the penultimate corner. And like you said, he just went, strange. We have a Transformers movie coming up next year. Maybe it's a Decepticon that's actually taking control of the car and doing all those crashes and all those weird little turns.
I loved the next line he said, though. He said, "I'm okay, though." Are you? What have you done, my man? It kind of reminded me of 1988 or 89, was it? When Senna got disqualified for using a slip road at the end of the championship and Ron Dennis protested saying that's what slip roads are for. Nicholas Latifi decided to honor that moment and say, yep, I'm going to use slip roads properly. But it's happened
in the
before.
memory of Senna. In the memory of all the Senna stories that Peter Windsor actually shared on our channel. And guys, just so y'all know, so both of y'all know, and so all of our listeners know, we were not paid to give him this award.
Yeah.
There is no Lavazza branding on us. There is nothing, there's no grandstand that's going to be named after us somewhere. There's probably no Nicholas Latifi ever on our podcast, which is why we are probably more comfortable taking pot shots.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think something like this happened in MotoGP as well, where I think Jack Miller did it in Barcelona until he was told, but he didn't bring the bike. That's the most important. It's like, yeah, my bike made me go there, not me. I'm a smart chap. I won't do that. Wow, but what a season. But does this end the season? Does it?
Question?
It does end the recording hour. We've literally just gone a few minutes over the hour. Our longest, our best, waiting for the last part of the season.
But the season's not over for us. It never is. We
is.
never take a break. It's bhag daud bhari zindagi hai, rukna mana hai, revital. Sorry. If you don't know, don't worry about it. But the season's not over for us because as we mentioned at the top of the episode, we are going to have Manish Pandey, the director of Lucky, Senna, Heroes, Grand Prix driver. He's going to be on the Inside Line F1 podcast. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, Kunal.
That is the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be a lot of Lollipop Man and F1 Stats Guru content that we are collabing with that will come out. We really are planning an educational series as well. Like, there are so many Formula One fans coming in, but you don't know where to start. You don't know what to pick. Like, what is Formula One? Why is it called Formula One? Why does a car look the way it does? Why do the drivers dress the way they do? Why is a race for X number of laps? And why is of course, I'm giving away a lot of content ideas that we're working on. But if somebody has more ideas of things they would want us to simplify, write into us, let us know. We're going to try and bring this out in the off season. But there are just so many things to look forward to, including your good reviews and ratings after you've heard our 71st episode of the season.
Wow, that's a lot. There's going to be more as well because Drive to Survive comes up rather soon. So that's going to be a talking point. It's going to be our educational series. There's going to be the guests we have. We're going to get lots of fun people on the podcast to interview and talk to. We are going to have the Force India series as well, Reject. So we can have more episodes of that. So that's going to be interesting. More stories from the Force India F1 team that you possibly may not have heard. So all that fun stuff is coming up. But for that, folks, you've got to do only one simple thing. It's not take a wrong turn at the Japanese GP circuit. It's subscribe to the Inside Line F1 podcast. Very simple to do. Press the button on whatever platform you follow. And write to us on social media. Reach out to us. Send in your questions. We'd love to interact with you. But as we mentioned time and time again, the season is not over for us. Stay tuned right here, folks. We'll be right back. Have a good time.